Hi there, Internet. It is the Christmas season of 2016. Santa Claus will be coming to town very soon. If you are a regular visitor, you might expect me to talk about video games, as this is a gamer's channel. But I don't want to do so today. I don't feel for it as of right now. Because I'm not only a gamer, but I am also a husband, a father and a son. I'm an European, a citizen of this earth. I'm multicultural and I am a human. This year 2016 has been a strange one. It has been a sad one. So many great people have passed. David Bowie, Prince, Alan Rickman, Leonard Cohen, Gene Wilder, Muhammad Ali, the greatest of the greatest. And for the science fiction geeks out there, Kenny Baker, our beloved R2-D2, and Anton Yelchin, the actor who played Chekhov from the Enterprise, who died at the age of 27 in a car accident. People die all the time, of course, but this year just feels kinda odd, as the soundtrack of my youth has passed away and just leaves a hole in my heart where there used to be music. Alan Rickman, whom I adored as a human being, and not only because he was Snape in Harry Potter. I miss him. On top of all that, we had the terror of Nice, we had Brexit, we had the presidential election in the United States of America. Right now, we had the Italian referendum. The nationalists and demagogues are on the rise in a lot of countries. Let me make it clear. I was not pro-Hillary nor pro-Donald Trump in this year's presidential election. The United States are not my country I live in, and neither am I British. I do respect the choice people made. I think each side do have valid points, and if I was to choose, I would not choose Hillary or Donald at all. Each of the candidates in the presidential election seemed flawed to me, but alas, the voters were not presented with better alternatives. Maybe the election in the United States would have gone in a different direction if Bernie Sanders had been nominated, but we will never know, won't we? Although I consider myself a liberal, I'm not blind to reality. Globalization has worked for only a few of us, but for many it hasn't. The gap between rich and poor is increasing every day, and the political elite seem to be ignorant to those left behind. The struggle of the ordinary people that have been their country's heartbeat with their sweat for decades. Maybe politicians really have become that ignorant and self-centered, I don't know. But I think they just don't seem to have solutions at hand and try to hold on to the status quo. But for many the status quo is a harsh one. They can barely make a living, and that makes it so easy for the naysayers, the people that are against globalization, Islam, the European Union, ISIS, refugees. There are little solutions offered from the naysayers. Being against anything seems to be sufficient. It is easy to say that you should qualify for a better job, get a better education, when you already are highly qualified and educated or young. If you are in your 40s or 50s and you have worked hard your whole life doing honest work, it is a cynical thing to say. The muzzle jobs are all gone. Gone overseas where people work for pennies. Ah, the wonders of globalization. We can buy t-shirts for $2, but we don't have jobs. I can't blame people that they seek for alternatives elsewhere in the political spectrum. That is not something that bothers me. Communism has failed. Maybe globalization is doomed to fail also. History will tell. But there is something that really does bother me. The tone in which people do talk with another or about each other. It has become despicable, hate-loading and aggressive.
We'd see a giant global political figure. The man that would be the political leader for 500 million people. The man that would represent all of us on the world stage. The man whose job was so important that, of course, you're paid more than President Obama. Well, I'm afraid what we got was you. And I'm sorry, but after that performance earlier that you gave, and I don't want to be rude, but you know, really, you have the charisma of a damp rag and the appearance of a low-grade bank clerk. And the question that I want to ask, that we're all going to ask, is who are you?
Certainly, I don't have a lot of respect for Megyn Kelly. She's a lightweight, and you know, she came out there reading her little script and trying to, you know, be tough and be sharp. And when you meet her, you realize she's not very tough and she's not very sharp.
Response to attack people on their appearance, short, tall, fat, ugly. My goodness, that happened in junior high. Are we not way above that? Would we not all be worried to have someone like that in charge of the nuclear arsenal?
Mr. Trump.
I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there. That I can tell you.
But Jake,
I have a feeling that by the end of this evening, I'm going to be blamed for everything that's ever happened.
Why not?
Why not?
I'd say, Rosie, you're fired. We're all a little chubby, but Rosie's just worse than most of us. But it's not the chubbiness. Rosie is a very unattractive person, both inside and out.
From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam, God bless America, my own sweet home.
When I was young, people were patriotic. But today people become more and more nationalistic again. What's the difference, you might ask? A patriot loves his country, but he can't accept that other people love their country equally. A nationalist thinks that his country and his people are better than all others, that others are in fact inferior. We could witness such thoughts in Europe in the 30s of the last century. I think we can agree upon that we don't want to go back there ever. When did we allow our conversation to be so disrespectful and hateful? Do we really need to make other people smaller than ourselves to heighten our shaken self-esteem? Do we really need to diminish or ridicule other people's points of view or heritage to prove our points? I want to tell a story about myself and my family. I had a grandmother named Maria. She lived in Serbia during the last century. Her father was a rather wealthy farmer. She fell in love with my grandpa Nikolaus, who was not from a wealthy family. He was an honest man, hard-working with dark eyes and hair and a very subtle and intelligent humor. He played the violin every now and then at the wedding, and my grandma fell in love with the handsome violinist. But he was not considered to be good enough to marry my grandma. But they did love each other. Then war broke out and changed everything. My grandma and my grandfather were considered being German, as they were from a German minority in Yugoslavia. During the war, my grandma had to work on the fields where she slept and had to guard the crop before the harvest. She awoke from the humming engines of some Spitfire that came in on a raid from the Mediterranean Sea. She was spotted by the pilot who dip-dived his plane to kill the single girl on the field. She ran for her life while the bullets ploughed through the melons in the field that she was guarding, each one of them exploding in heaps of red melon flesh right and left of her as she ran. She barely managed to make it to a manure heap. She did crawl deep inside the horse excrements in order to be protected from the bullets. Finally, the Allied pilot lost interest. She never forgot that day. The day she almost died. You don't choose war. War is upon you if you wish it or not. 1945, war was almost reaching its end. My grandfather was ordered to the front line to stop the final Allied assault. He was with the artillery. He did not want to go, but then again, who wanted to? His unit did guard the German anti-aircraft guns at the coast. It was foggy. Nothing could be seen. Then the Allies charged in from the fog. They got caught by surprise. Before he had a chance to react, he got a bayonet blade through his stomach and lay there bleeding out in the trenches, as most of his comrades and friends died beside him. He was about to pass out. The whole trench was flooded with Allied troops by this time. They sure thought him dead, but he wasn't yet. But he would be soon. He thought about giving up. Dying would be the easy way out. But then he thought about Maria. She was pregnant. If he would not make it, certainly her heart would break. He had to live. He had to live for his Maria and her unborn child. This war was almost over. So close to peace, and yet he lay there bleeding before he could make it. It seemed fate was laughing gruesomely. But God may have had different plans for my grandfather that day. He gave him strength. He invigorated him with hope. So he took a breath and waited. It was only 100 yards or so to the edge of the woods. If he only would manage to remain unseen, he could escape into the trees. When everybody was watching a different direction, he ran. He ran as fast as his shattered, bleeding body could. He almost made it to the trees. Then he was spotted. They mounted an MG and fired on my running grandpa. The bullets hit his boots. All toes in his right foot exploded in a fleshy mess. He fell, so short before the trees. He leapt on his feet again. A grenade was thrown. The blast hit him, swept him off his feet again. His back burned and full of splinters. He was deafened from the blast. But he again made it on his feet and managed to reach the safety of the trees. He did reach the German lines in desperate need of medical aid. He was bleeding from a lot of wounds. The surgeon in the German camp, however, said that he could not do anything for my grandpa, as he was beyond hope of surviving. There were others that needed his help more, so he let him to die. But my grandpa was too stubborn to die after he had come so far. A friend of his fetched a bucket full of water. They washed his guts that were hanging out of the open stomach wound. They sewed him together as good as they could. Then he passed out. Some hours later, the surgeon came around once more. "Are you still alive? But how can this be? Why are you still breathing?" And my grandpa said, "I have to see my wife and child. I'm not done here yet. I still have things to do. I have to marry my Mary." Impressed, the surgeon gave him medicine and took care about him. And again God smiled upon Nicholas, and those deadly wounds did not get infectious. The Allies won, war was over. Suddenly the German minority in Serbia had to flee. They were the defeated, the aggressors in the war. My people have lost everything they possessed. They had become refugees. With no place to live or call home, they went for a new homeland that they have never lived in and never knew, Germany. My grandmother's relatives died in detention camp in Serbia due to disease and hunger. Although the war was over, yet so much suffering was still to endure. My family moved on to the foreign country. Under tears they said goodbye and moved north by foot with the few belongings they had. My grandma Maria was pregnant. Her husband Nicholas was a heavily injured man, and they had no home to go to. The homeland that they knew just didn't exist anymore, at least for them. My father Albert was born in Austria in November, while they were marching north, and, like Jesus, he lay in a manger during the winter months. There was no cradle for him. My family did not possess much more than hope and love that kept them together, that kept them alive. They were greeted by the kindness of so many strangers that helped them on the way. And that is why I always will hold the Christmas story precious, because there is a lot of my family's history in it too. Finally, my grandparents made it to South Germany. They found a new home there, but it was winter, and it was cold. There was nothing to make fire with, no wood, no coals. Everybody was freezing. My grandma went into the forest in search for wood. But collecting wood was a crime at the time for which you could be shot. It was considered looting. Still, so much death was lingering in the post-war years. In fear for her life, she went wood chopping regardless. The baby was freezing. She had to prepare food. Nicholas was not able to. Then the British soldier caught her, rifle in his hand, she the grains and sticks that she was not allowed to take. He lowered his gun and let her pass unhindered, however. The world is full of good people, and sometimes you encounter them when you least expect them. The Marshall Plan was also an act of kindness that enabled Germany to prosper again. My grandfather over the years became healthy again. After many operations he still had many years to live, without toes and a back that looked like a scarred mess. He was the kindest, most lovely man you can think of. Never has he struck out for his wife or his kids or grandchildren. He helped others settle. He became the leader and spokesman of the ethnological refugee minority. He helped raise me. He gave my ethical compass a north and a south. He taught me that if you don't have something kind to say about others, it's best to say nothing at all. He taught me that you should be rightful and just, but also compassionate and humble. He was generous and he got furious with any kind of bullying. I am very much like him. My name is Klaus, named after him, Nikolaus. I owe my grandfather so much, and of course my parents. My father met my mother in Norway. I really do consider myself a European more than I consider myself being a German. I speak German, Norwegian, English, French, and tiny bits of Spanish. I could never be a nationalist. How could I ever think that one nation is better or greater than any other? People are different. There are so many things to love about other nations. During the last Soccer European Championship, my son was asking me, "Are we cheering for Germany?" And I said, "Yes, we do. We are from Germany. We are cheering on our team." "And why do we cheer on Iceland?" "Because they deserve it. They have great fans, they play wonderful football and got admirable fighting spirit. And they are the underdogs. Everybody loves underdogs, like in Eddie the Eagle. Remember the movie that we have seen? But what's with Italy? Do we hate Italy?" "No, we absolutely don't hate Italy. We love them. Still, I want our team to win. But if Italy should win, I'm glad for them too. Look at Gianluigi Buffon, for example. He's such a great sportsman. Everybody loves Buffon. What's good about Italy then?" What's good about Italy? A funny question. Okay, here are some examples. Pizza, ice cream, spaghetti, Nutella. They are all from Italy, and that does not even contain all their wonderful artists. And what's good with France? Well, they brought democracy to Europe. They gave Miss Liberty as a gift to the United States. They invented the Three Musketeers. They built the Eiffel Tower. They invented croissants and baguettes and café au lait. They gave Europeans the freedom to move and live in every city they like and make a living in any profession, which was forbidden in the old days. They are the reason we drive on the right side of the road. They have Edith Piaf, a great singer, and Jules Verne, who invented the submarine, and a lot of other stories. They are the reason we can buy milk in the supermarket, and they are the hosts of the Euro. If they should win, this is absolutely okay. It is great for the French people. And then this became a sport between my sons and me. "Papa, what is great about so-and-so?" And we then had to figure out what was great with other nations and how much they have influenced us. It is really a nice game to play. You should try it out yourself. So, what is good about the English? The English? Oh, that is easy, I said. They have the most wonderful humor in the world. They have Monty Python and Mr. Bean, to just name a few. They have the Queen and the most castles in Europe. Your favorite band, Queen, is from England, as is Harry Potter and Sherlock Holmes. The English invented ghost stories. They have some of the greatest poets, and they invented drinking tea. They invented football. They have Robin Hood and King Arthur. They invented umbrellas, and they are maybe the smartest, most intelligent and polite beings in all of Europe, and they always keep their calm. But while I was saying this, I fear that the English I knew and admired for so long have somehow grown silent. They are still there, but another kind of Englishman has emerged on top. In 2015, 15 million refugees were on the run from war and terror. The United Kingdom received 38,878 asylum applicants. In 2015, 117,000 refugees were living in the UK. That's just 0.18% of the total population. What is wrong with us? My family has once been on the run, driven off by war, seeking shelter in a foreign land, thinking that they be labeled swarm or flood, like an army of cockroaches, just makes me ill. Being British or German or whatever nation it is you are from is no achievement. You might have had the fortunate chance of being born in a safe, economically rich country in a peaceful time, but what if your mother was born in Aleppo? Who are we to dehumanize other human beings who fate has played ill upon? What about the United States? The most beloved and dearest holiday here is Thanksgiving. But besides the pumpkin pie and all, do we remember why we celebrate in the first place? The first pilgrims on American soil were starving and greeted with kindness by the native Indians. The Americans have been refugees in search for a better future for themselves and their families long time ago also. Have we totally forgotten? It was the kindness and the compassion of others that made the American dream possible in the first place. When Thomas Jefferson spoke those holy words on the second paragraph of the United States Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. I am not an American, but gladly would agree on what was written down so many years ago by the founders of that great nation. And if we by heart agree on these words, these values must be true for all human beings. It does not state all Americans are created equal and all other human beings are something else. And how could they? The American nation was yet nothing more than an idea that so many would spill their sweat and blood for, to achieve the impossible dream of one united free nation where everybody is free. And it were Italians, English, Welsh, Irish, Germans, Swedish, French, Spanish who united under the star-dotted flag and shared the same dream. It is Christmas time. It is the year 2016. I'm not asking for much. I don't want you to take your wallet and enlighten your bad conscience and give something for charity. Can't you feel it too? Winter is coming. And I'm not talking about Game of Thrones here. Winter is coming for real and literally for all people in Aleppo and Syria. They don't have electricity, no warmth, nothing to eat, and most of all, no hope. Somebody in that city could be a Maria or a Nikolaus barely holding on to life. They are not cockroaches, they are not flood, and they are certainly no disease that we must get rid of. They are poor souls that are destined to be killed by a reckless dictator that wages war against his own people, who bombs hospitals and uses chemical weapons against men and little ones. These are war crimes, and the United Nations should be ashamed for their inactivity. All our nations are watching from the outside. We don't want to interfere. War is unpopular with the voters. It costs a lot of money. It costs human life. It gives bad press, and there isn't even oil or other riches to be gained in such an endeavour. So we are rightfully disgusted and utter our protests, but beside that, we don't do much. Assad has written messages to the people in Aleppo. Everybody has forgotten about you. Nobody will come to your aid. You will all die. May I quote Edmund Burke? The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. This is what is happening right now, and history will judge us for it. What is it we can do? Is there anything we can do at all? Yes, you can. Be informed. Have an opinion. Don't be indifferent. Don't stay silent. But what can we do? As for political actions, we can always vote, and we should. If you want to go even further than that, you could engage yourself politically or socially. This is, however, a lot to ask from anybody. The kind British soldier in the woods, however, you could be the one. I wish for one thing only, really. There is a tiny little thing that we can change. You and no one else. And that is you. If you witness bullying, stand up and shout it out loud. Enough! Enough is enough. We are better than that. Write to your newspaper or online forums when you feel that hatred and prejudice is taking over public opinion. We live in troubled times, and we all have our share of burdens to bear. But we are better than that. When you are with your colleagues or friends and they go low, go high and stand up saying, enough. We are better than that. When we have nothing positive to say, we should just be silent. One election year does not change who we are. One election or several elections don't change our values on our core principles, on our moral compass. We are still compassionate, loving, breathing and thoughtful human beings. We can't let hatred and intolerance poison our language and minds. Here is my to-do list I have for December that is really easy to do. Maybe you want to join me in my efforts. Maybe you want to try it out too. Number 1. Do something kind to a stranger each day that does not involve money and ask them their name. Number 2. Stand up on any kind of bullying whenever you encounter it. We are better than that. We can live in a world where all men are created equal, where other people or other nations have something to contribute to our lives that we admire, that can complete us. The choice is all but ours. Be patriotic, but don't be a nationalist. Let others enrich in your life. All we have to do is, we do have to want it. Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Klaus. I'm a gamer, a father, a husband and a son. I hope I'm not the only one. Join me in the words of Thomas Jefferson. We are all created equal. We are star citizen. If you agree with this message, please like it and share it.